Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chiropractic Thought Leaders live Google Hangout for April 2015. Thank you all for being here tonight. It is going to be off the hook, and I'm going to turn it over to our speakers here in just a second. Before we do, I just want to let everybody know we really encourage your comments, your sharing these pages that you're watching them from. Share them on Facebook, on Twitter. Email them to your colleagues and make sure that everybody's on tonight. We have hundreds of chiropractors across the world that are on tonight that are about to get a huge value from this. So whether you're watching from our live events page, our Facebook page, or even your very own VIP app, there is a button below the video that will allow you to post comments and communicate, and I will be observing those as we go through. I'll make sure that Dr. Zano gets those and that all your questions are answered. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Dr. Zano. Take it away, brother.
Right, thanks, Dr. Tabor. Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Zano. Thank you for coming to our hangout. Please pass this along and start taking notes. Make sure you have a pen and paper. Well, you know, we're bringing back again, which was the original thought leader, where this whole concept came from, was with Dr. Fred DiDomenico. You know, definitely a thought leader where we were, you know, where we really learned how to change, you know, literally save lives by shifting minds. It was really, because it was all, you know, shifting their thought process to where it needed to be. So, you know, I appreciate Dr. Fred for that. And so he was actually, when we did Thought Leaders, he was the first interviews we did. It originally was just going to be those interviews of Dr. Fred to be thought leaders. That was enough, I thought. But then, you know, the way the universe does it, you know, we wind up going above and beyond all that. So today, Dr. Fred's going to really give us some amazing stuff. He's really, even personally, you know, Dr. Fred's definitely been growing in multiple ways, just taking to that second level. And he's going to share some insanely invaluable information and wisdom today. No, it's not information. Let's just call it wisdom that you can apply to your life, your practice, and continue that journey of just reaching the next level. So, Dr. Fred, what's going on?
Hey, my friend. Great to be here with Dr. Tabor and obviously you, Dr. Chris. You know, it's whenever you tell that story, it's such a huge compliment, you know, that this was birthed out of really just us meeting and a little bit more than a conversation. It was more of the boot camp. But, you know, you never know. This really ties in and segues into what I want to talk about tonight and what we're going to talk about tonight, Chris. And that's 4 steps to really creating a life-changing breakthrough in your life. And you know, when you're in that time of presence, you know, when time is vertical, you know, when everything clears and you get that epiphany and you get that vision, you know, that's the first step. And that's really what happened, Chris, was when we met and we were going through this communication training. It was like things just opened up, man. The veil of awareness just parts. And then this great vision happens, and that's usually the way it is. When in that time of presence is when God speaks to you, and your spirit and innate really brings forth what your next step is. And that's, you know, that's my impression of what happened, Chris. Like with you, the veil parted right there. I was like, oh my God, man, it's right in front of me. It seems so obvious. What was that moment like when you got that?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things. You know, it really started you know, a great journey in different directions. You know, so you know, we went a couple of different directions. You know, which is good, and we learned some things along the way. But it was great. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today, and neither would you. So I just think it was just a great time, and I think that's why I stress, like so many chiropractors, they're working for their money or they're worshiping money so much that they use money as an excuse. Well, I don't want to invest in myself because of the money's tight, or I don't have it, and they're so emotionally attached to that dollar. They don't see that dollar can become a seed to invest in themselves, to go to a boot camp. So it's not like you invest and you go to a boot camp. People think like I invest and I go to a boot camp. No, it's like you're missing the big picture. You invest, you go to the boot camp, and you get, of course, you get great wisdom at the boot camp. But how about then you meet somebody? Right, you meet this doctor and you start this friendship, or like you don't understand the relationship capital, all the other things that start to manifest from you just taking the first step of investing in yourself. So many people think I give $1, I'm going to get $1 worth back, but if you're investing in yourself, it starts to open up all these doors. Or someone's like, you meet someone, it's like, hey, I know someone could help with that. And you just start this journey, and every time I look back, it's like, wow, if I never met Garrett Gunderson, I wouldn't have this. So you really start to see how these relationships start to spiderweb into just some amazing, what we call relationship capital in our lives. So it wasn't that I just went to a boot camp. I went to a boot camp because I was dedicated to my profession. I was dedicated to getting better. And the world, the universe knows that. My intention was there, and it just started opening up doors. And then you go through that door, and it opens up more doors. So it really becomes this chain effect that happens, all because you took the first step with true intention to better yourself. So that's kind of the way I saw it. It's this ripple effect.
Well, no question, and that's a great segue into what I'm going to get into, because when we go into 4 steps to a breakthrough, those opening doors, that's in the second step. So I'm going to go through that. So let's get into this, if you don't mind. So when you're looking, you want to create a breakthrough in your life. First of all, one of the greatest gifts that we've been given innately, that God gave us, was a powerful mind that when we make a decision, when we decide, and those shoulds become musts, then all kinds of things start to open up. So first of all, as a spiritual being, we have desire. If you believe that you're a chiropractor because you're a spirit in the physical body, and you come and chiropractic is a calling, which I know it is with you, then it's a life purpose. And so step 1 is you have to have a clear vision. Clarity is everything. And that vision doesn't come, it may come in a vision, it may come in a feeling, it depends how you learn, visually, auditory, but you know what you see and what you're supposed to do in your life. And the more clear you are, the more inspiration that brings. And that's the difference between willpower. Willpower is when you have a goal. You have a goal, and will pushes. It takes energy willpower takes energy to push that boulder up the hill. And the thing is, if you have a strong will, you can actually push it. But what happens is you burn out. Willpower burns out. When that clear vision is compelling, it brings out inspiration. Inspiration pours from you like a well deep in the earth, like a spring, where that water just naturally pours. That's what a vision does. When that vision is compelling, you know it comes from your spirit. Willpower can be a goal that comes from your mind. When it comes from your mind, it takes will and you push. When a vision comes from your spirit, it creates inspiration. That inspiration is the power and the fuel that helps you get through those obstacles. So step 1, man, you have to have a clear vision. You have to have clarity. You know what it is. You see it in front of you. Keep it in front of you every day. And that's what pulls you. Willpower pushes and inspiration pulls. When that inspiration pulls, you don't need energy because it's already supplied, right? What you need is the right mindset at that point, right? To guide and get direction and be guided. If that vision comes from your spirit, then you seek that universal truth. You seek universal guidance to create that path. So step 1, I know, Dr. Chris, you might have popped out for a sec. I don't know if you heard that. We're talking about.
No, I was there. I'm here.
Okay, great. The difference between willpower and inspiration. I mean, you know what inspiration feels like. Can you talk about that difference? I mean, you've done both.
Yeah. Well, I think you nailed it on the head. Willpower gets the ball rolling. We got very, very, very limited willpower, and it's good, but willpower just gets things started. It doesn't keep them going. And so that's why the willpower might be just kind of the momentum that gets the train moving, but you run out of that really quick. And like you say, you get burnt out or you just lose focus. But when you're inspired and it's really, you're able to attach what you're doing according to your highest values, and then it's like you're being pulled. You don't have to tell me to wake up and do it. There's no motivation needed. It is. That's what you do. It's a calling. It's a purpose. If you're not doing it, you know it. You don't feel you feel tuned in. That's more like, I think that's what you feel tuned in. You're in that flow. You're in that zone, and it's a great place to be in. But the thing is, like, the thing is, people might be sitting there, like, I love chiropractic. I know I'm chosen to be a chiropractor, but how do I get into that flow state? How do I get How do I go from motivation to inspiration? How do I go from passion and purpose, from willpower to passion and purpose?
Well, that's step 2. Thank you for leading me right into the next step.
I'm just throwing fastballs down the middle.
How do you love that, man?
I'm lobbing them.
Yeah, we always flow like that. How awesome are you? So step 2, number 1, vision. Number 2, you have to have a strong reason. Your reason why. Number 1, like what Chris said, you have to have a compelling reason. So once you have that vision, what's your reason why? And this is a big Tony Robbins thing I learned at Business Mastery, was the number 1 reason people fail. Number 1, no other reason. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. They don't have a compelling reason. That's it. That's why patients walk out. If you think you're going to describe a subluxation, you're going to describe an x-ray, and here's where, I love chiropractic. There's a lot of great coaches out there, and what the profession has done for 119 years, by the way, 3.4% of the population, maybe we need to do something different. They've taught us how to describe an x-ray, describe a subluxation, as opposed to helping that person find a compelling reason within themselves. See, when you can help a patient identify the compelling reason, inspiration pours out of them. You don't have to motivate them. It comes out of them. And then when your systems know how to perpetuate that inspiration, you create a lifelong patient. Well, guess what? Here's one thing I learned from coaching. Chiropractors are people too. When I was a chiropractor, I never thought chiropractors were people. I thought that, hey, it's a calling, you're a spiritual being, you know your calling. You put aside all your stuff, because when you're in your clinic, you're a chiropractor. You look at the 2 letters behind your name and you say, I contribute to humanity. And you put aside your stuff. You have to have a compelling reason that makes you fear not doing it. So I'll say one more thing, and then I'd love to have you talk, Chris. In my opinion, the biggest reason is if you know that you're a spiritual being and you came into this world, there's no greater compelling reason than knowing your purpose, and your greatest fear should be not doing it. When that purpose of fulfilling that reason is so great, then it overcomes any fear. You'll confront anything because the fear of not doing is greater. And there's 2 compelling reasons I'll go through in a minute. Chris, you know that, man.
Yeah. And so, and I'm just trying to think out of everybody watching, I think some docs are like, I know it's my purpose to be a chiropractor, but they don't, I think they say it, but they don't really believe it. So I don't think we need this epiphany moment, so to speak, but it's almost like choose it, like, so, you know what I mean? Like the reason, it's something. So what on our part do we get to the points where you actually choose to say, well, this is my purpose and this is the reason? Because how do we get that person that? Because if we're not there, because really taking that step is like taking that leap of faith. But when you do it and you're 100% committed, then everything changes. So just for that doctor out there, that they still let fear get in the way, they still get anxiety in the way, they still they're more concerned about what others think versus telling truth and leading people in purpose. Because they still have that fear and that belief system. Their big why. I don't want to say the big why. Their reason isn't strong enough. Like, because one thing I've been doing recently is, I just want to always remind myself, like, one of the most stressful things you could do in your life is not tell the whole truth. Because anytime we even water it down. So let's say I tell you the truth, but I hold something back because it might be, it might be offensive, not on purpose, but I'm just holding it back to make you feel better in a nice way. But I'm still holding back the truth, so it's stressful. And when it's a big stress is that we, as humans, we don't tell the whole truth and we hold back, we water it down. But I realize when you have that big purpose and that big reason, and that, like you say, I fear not doing my purpose, it allows you to speak in truth, and not really being attached to that outcome, knowing that I could say something and hold back some truth, and that person may stay in my office. But if I say the truth in love at 100% and don't hold it back, they may leave, but at least we spoke truth. So, just what's for the chiropractor that's holding back because it's just that reason isn't strong enough? How do we develop that?
Well, that's a great question, and I think, well, I would say more than I think I know. It's operating on the level of contribution because that fear of not telling the truth, wanting to be accepted, all these things, is you're thinking about yourself.
Right.
Chiropractic is not about you. That's what I learned coaching. Chiropractors are people too. Well, guess what? You lose the right to think about yourself. You have a message that's a universal truth. So if you have that fear of what to say, what not to say, you're just being selfish. I mean, I'm getting in your face on this one, gang. The reason Dr. Chris does what he does is he is not a variable in his communication. There is no variable. He takes himself out of the picture. He tells the truth because if he doesn't tell the truth, that person may not come into full awareness of their life. And do you really believe that a subluxated spine, that people in front of you are making a life and death decision? I'm going to give you something extra here that we teach in the boot camps. There's 4 subconscious beliefs of influence. When you can have subconscious influence, there's 4 beliefs. And if you believe these things, your influence will be much greater. Number 1, chiropractic is a universal law. The law of energy. Life force in a body, a subluxated spine blocks out life force, the body is going to get disease. Number 2, the universe has intention. That means if somebody's standing in front of you, they're there to hear your message. As a chiropractor, when you tell a universal truth, other spirits are drawn to it. Do you believe that every patient, when you're telling the truth, the whole truth, not watered down, telling them what they need to hear, that a person is actually subconsciously, innately drawn to it? If they are, the universe has intention. Third belief, they're there to hear your message. They're standing in front of you because you're telling universal truth. The universe put them in front of you because they are there innately to hear their message, your message. And then the 4th belief is they truly desire to be in relationship with you. If you have these 4 subconscious beliefs that are deeply rooted in you, then your compelling reason is going to pour out of your heart. They're going to feel your sincerity. You already believe they want to be. You already believe they accept it. And your ability to subconsciously influence that person as a spiritual being and make an innate to innate connection will shape their next decision. Guaranteed. And that's what you do so innately, Dr. Chris.
Well, I mean, I just think life and getting burnt or being in situations you realize, man, you realized you were in this, like, oh, I was trying to win that. I was like, you realize that where you do get, you let yourself get in the way, and then, after thousands of times of that happening, enough's enough after a while, and it's slipping and checking. That's exactly what it is. I'm always being checked when I slipped, and the office does it for me, which is great. I love that office. That office became like a living entity because we have no variables in there. So if we just tweak one thing or try one thing, we get instant feedback immediately by the office. So the office really teaches me. I know it sounds weird, but it really is like this living organism now, and it really teaches me what we're doing is right, or when I have to be checked, or where I'm slipping. So.
Well, and what you're talking about, your practice is its own life force. I'm getting off on this, but this is important to what you say. What you're doing is you're building a culture. A culture has its own life force. So it's like a kid, when you raise your kid, you feed it, you teach it. Same thing with your practice. It has its own life force, your systems guide it, and then you pour love into it. When you pour love into anything, it grows. And that's what's, you do so well in your team, which you got to go to Dr. Chris's CA boot camp, and you're going to learn how the systems run that culture, and then you pour love into it. The 2 reasons, compelling reasons, let me get into this before I think of something else I'll go off on. Number 1, if I do this, then I'll gain that. If you tell the truth, then what do you gain? Well, you gain freedom, number 1, within yourself. Number 2, you'll probably gain a patient. That's the pain of discipline. If I do this, this is what I gain. That's the pain of discipline. If I don't do this, it will cost me something else. That's the pain of regret. And that's exactly what you mentioned, Dr. Chris, is how much suffering and pain, the pain of regret that you didn't say something, starts to build up on you after a while, that now it's like the pain of discipline weighs ounces. the pain of regret will collapse your whole life. The pain of regret will kill you from the inside out. And you all know the pain of regret, that enduring, the pain of regret is like holding out your arms. Hey, let's put a 10-pound plate in your arm. Hey, you know what? Well, I should have said this, but that's okay. And then the next thing, well, I should have said this, and then a patient quits. That's a 45-pound plate. Now you got 55 pounds. Then I should have said this. There's another 25-pound plate. Thing is, every time you shoulda, you're adding more weight until the pain of regret is so bad that the pain of discipline looks easy. The pain of discipline is your freedom. You want to feel free? Then be disciplined, because the pain of regret kills you from the inside out.
Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's number 3?
Well, let's finish this real quick. Compelling reasons come first, answers come second. So here's what you were talking about in the beginning. When you have a compelling reason, when you're in the right state of inspiration, you find the right strategy. Your mind, you have your reticular activating system. Your mind is actually a deletion machine. Our mind, if we were aware of everything going around us, we'd have so much sensory overload, we would actually be schizophrenic, right? We'd hear voices in the spirit world. So we're actually deletion creatures. And we're able to focus on something specifically. But when you have that compelling reason, you activate your RAS. Now, all of a sudden, your mind becomes aware to your environment. Exactly what you said, Chris. Doors start to open. People start to come into your life. And what that is your shoulds have to become a must. When you activate that and you have a compelling reason, your mind becomes aware. Your whole awareness changes, and now new strategies start to come in. Inspiration starts to move. Ideas. That's how Chiro thought leaders developed, was when you saw that, your awareness on communication and a whole nother level to communicate to people was opened up, and that's when thought leaders came through. Because you activated your mind to find a new strategy, that's when your bigger vision is going to move through your spirit, through your mind, and appear right in front of your face. When you have a compelling vision and a strong reason, you have uncommon results. And there's probably nobody in the profession like you, Dr. Chris, that definitely exemplifies compelling vision, strong reason, and the things that you do are truly uncommon results.
Good idea. Okay, that answered my question. That was good. That answered it.
Take that.
And that's what we want, because there's going to have to. Because I know we're talking about these concepts, but we don't want anybody to leave. Well, no, we don't want anybody to leave to Hangout saying that was good. It sounded good. I felt good. But what everybody wants to know, what's that step? What do I have to do? So I appreciate that. That we're there is directions. They actually have to start. It's a start. And go on that journey,
Yeah, well, here comes the steps. Are you guys ready? Put your finger out, raise your hand, say yes.
Yes.
Everybody, okay. Step 3, you got to raise your standards. 3 words, man. It's like, really, I hung out for this? 3 words? Raise your standards. What's that mean? If you don't want pain patients, then learn how to communicate in a way that people don't choose it. If you think chiropractic is more than pain, then maybe you really need to look at, do I really accept pain patients? Raise your standards. Well, everybody needs to refer 5 people in the first month. What if every patient referred even 2 people? Well, now your systems have to match. So people don't get what they want. They get what their standards are. What's that mean? That means if your standard is to pay your bills, you'll never be affluent. If your standard is just to get a patient, they're probably not going to go through. Some will go through corrective care and some won't. If your standard is to be successful, you'll never be fulfilled. So here's the deal, man. You got to decide, where is my bar between what I want and how I act? And what do I really want? Now I have to raise my standards to say, I will accept nothing less. And I'm going to establish my core values, and I'm going to set boundaries. And now my shoulds have to become must. One more comment real quick. Rick Sapio, world business person, we all know him. Chris, you work with him. He says eternity is the time between something I'm paraphrasing, something you should be doing and you actually do it. That's the definition of eternity. From doing something you should be doing to actually doing it. Because that time difference is where your pain and suffering is. When your shoulds become musts and you say, that's it, I am done. I am doing this. It doesn't mean that you have to do everything in one day. But when your shoulds become a must and you do one small step every day, you can do one thing, make a phone call, read something, study something, listen to a tape, listen to a podcast, listen to this again. Find your source, take that right one thing that's a must. And then you start to build your self-esteem. You start to move towards those standards. So you probably have some of the highest standards in the profession, Dr. Chris. Why don't you talk about raising your standards?
Well, you raise your standards. This is how you do it. When you, in your mind, because you're kind of in the frame, you hit a certain level of excellence, and then you become congruent to that. So this is the level of excellence you want. Then if you learn something, or if you go to a boot camp, if you go to an experience, and if you see it done better, then once you know it could be done better or more efficiently, then that creates this gap where it's like that eternity kicks in, and then it's saying, well, if then you have no choice. If I know it could be done better and more efficiently, then I automatically have to do that. And so that time in between, that procrastination or that eternity is said, so I'm always working on it. How can it be better? How can it be more efficient? How can it be sustainable? I'm totally working on it. So my office, like I said, I don't think in terms of minutes. I think it's seconds. Really like all the seconds count, because a second is so much time in my office. So I want to make sure that we're all doing everything is used efficiently, and and you always, when you're working on your practice, and then of other techniques and systems that are more efficient, more excellent at a higher level. And now when you know about it, for you not to do that would be incongruent. So if excellence and a higher standard is one of your core values, then you're, like Dr. Fred says, your eyes are open, and you see, you'll be given those opportunities where you start to see excellence in action, whether it be in the profession or outside the profession. You'd be like, wow, that's awesome. And then you say, well, how can I do that in my office? And you start to see, it's almost like sometimes you get too comfortable in your practice, and you almost need someone to continually stretch you and make you uncomfortable to keep on raising those standards. And then when you raise your standard, it's just like working out. If you're bench pressing and the first time you bench 200 pounds, you're going to be sore. But if you keep at it over time, that becomes your normal weight. And then, the 300 becomes, you do that, then you get sore there. So the thing is the same thing with your practice or your standards. You have to be stretched. And our humanity doesn't like that. Doesn't like to be stressed. It does stressed or stretched. It doesn't like to be uncomfortable. But it's in that time where those standards, when your standards raise, like Dr. Fred, you get freedom. Everybody thinks that raising your standards is going to cause more work, but you don't realize that when you raise your standards, it actually it gives you more freedom. You become more efficient and less stress. But there's that illusion that it'll just be more work, time, and money. But it's not. It's actually less.
Well, and with more freedom, you have more inspiration, so more energy pours out of you.
And then when your energy goes up, it's just, because when your energy goes up, then that's like a cascading effect as well.
Yeah, big time. And here's really a key, and I know you're going to cover this in your CA boot camp, Dr. Chris, and that is your practice can only reach the level of the lowest standard of a team member. So you could have high standards, but if your team if one team member doesn't have the same standards, that's determining the level of your practice. Is every team member, are they on a corrected program? What's their spine like? What's your spine look like? Are they living what you teach? How do they talk to patients? And this is one of the things that I think that, well, there's so many powerful things in the boot camp. However, when you bring your team, that's really the boot camp. Yeah, we go over communication. It's friggin' amazing. It'll totally transform the way you think. But really, what really comes out of that is your standards and the standards of the team are raised to a higher level. They become congruent. And I can't even count. We probably had last boot camp in March in Phoenix, 40% of the attendees there had their best highs, hit goals they've never hit before the week after the boot camp. 40%. 1 week, boom, hit a goal they've never hit before. Why? Because their team comes back, their standards, and because their standards are high and their systems match, their inspiration pours out of them. Now you're pouring that love into the culture, and it automatically grows on its own. And that's what you see, Dr. Chris. When your practice grows, like, you don't grow by 30 a week. You know, all of a sudden you can grow by 100. You know, at that volume, you know, 10 a week, some chiropractors think, wow, 10, I'm up 10 or 20 visits a week. And, you know, it's all relative. You know, you could, a boost in your practice could be 150 or a couple hundred. So what's that energy like? How much love do they pour in? What are the standards of that team that can create that kind of growth? For some, that's doubling your practice.
No, they're great. I get a wonderful team. They're awesome, and they really and that's the thing. Just building that great team, it gave me more freedom and allowed me to just kind of like we're all equal pillars. I really feel like we all have our stations and we're all equally. There's no job or person that's less important than the other. So it's kind of nice to really finally have that team feeling versus a Superman feeling where, you know, I'm the show and these people are supporting. You know, that's tough. That sucked.
That's willpower.
The answer, you know.
Okay, step 4. Here we go. You guys ready? Your rituals must match your standards and your vision. Now, when you set your standards, so you can have high standards in your mind, but if what you do day to day doesn't match your standards, you know, that's like saying, well, I want to be in shape, but I don't want to get up early. I want to do this, but I don't want to change my diet. I want people to be lifetime patients, but I'm willing to take symptom-oriented people. Well, that may be you need to work on your communication. So your rituals have to match your standards. Your rituals bring your standards into your life. So is what you're doing day to day, does it match your standards and your vision? If they don't match, you're never going to get there. And now, you know, this is what you talk about, Dr. Chris, is congruency. I mean, this is really a major core value of Chiro Thought Leaders is congruency. Anytime you're incongruent with your rituals and your standards and your vision, you're not going to get there.
100%. I mean, it really is, and it's something that you know, it's not something where it's ever perfect. But listen, if this is what I teach, or if this is what I expect patients to do, I have to be doing it myself. I have to master it myself because I can't lead people if I'm not doing what I'm telling them I'm doing. So whether it be, really, I really see my office, and it's a very healthy thing because my patients keep me accountable. You know, I'm accountable for myself and my patients. So I eat, you know, I get my adjustments, I do my spinal rehab, I eat the way I tell them to eat, I exercise the way, and I try to do it better. You know, I want to be my goal is to be the best patient in that office. Because if I'm the best patient in the office, and also, see, as a chiropractor, many of you do not spend money on your chiropractic care, but you can spend money on other areas of your health or better in your life. So for a chiropractor, even though you might get adjusted by your associate or the doctor next to you, but the thing is, but if you take your money and let's say you charge $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for a care plan, why don't you spend that on bettering your office, investing into your office, you know, where you could learn how to become more efficient and better, or you do something like self-improvement. You know, why do you start investing in yourself? So when you ask someone, because a lot of times chiropractors, here's the reason, most of you would never pay the amount of money that you're charging for your patients. If you really came down to it, you would probably balk at it. You would probably give the same excuses. So when I hear excuses like I don't have the time, I don't have the money, all these other things, I see a fourth dimensional aspect there. You know, when a doctor tells me, well, it's my town, it's this and this and that, and I have to go, it comes from them. I'm like, so let me see your checkbook or your credit card statements. What is the number one thing that you're spending your money on? And chances are it's not their health. Yet they're expecting people to do the same. So congruency is huge. And that, just if you took that alone, just say, listen, where can I, if I could keep on each week, each year, how can I become more congruent and more congruent and more congruent? You'll see everything change. People are not doing spinal rehab in your office? Why don't you try to do it for the next 30 days straight and watch the compliance that happens? Don't even tell them. there is a fourth dimensional thing that happens when you become congruent.
Yeah, there is. And then, like the doctors, but how does your staff live their life? Because when they're truly inspired, they want to change the way they live too. What are they investing in? Because, that was such a great point, Dr. Chris, about looking at your credit card statement and your checkbook, because how can your staff teach a message they're not living? And patients go to them almost more than they go to you. They look to your staff for reassurance. And your responsibility with your team is not to give them a job. They have a purpose that's so much bigger. And if you have those 4 subconscious beliefs, and we look at every person as a spirit on a journey through this physical life, there's a reason why they're there. Do they feel that they have a spiritual reason why they're there? And what you're teaching them is they can have a principle, a truth, that they teach to other people. They have a purpose to change people's lives. They have core values with boundaries that they can raise their standards, and their rituals can match. And those rituals bring them success that builds relationships. And really, that's what it is. When we look at the end of our life, the quality of our relationships and how we lived our lives and influence others is really the most valuable thing that you have. Does your staff see that being in your clinic has principles that they can learn about how to be successful and fulfilled in life? And if they do, then maybe their credit card statements would look different too. So what we want to do, sorry, go ahead.
No, 100%.
Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to give you action steps. So let's go back through this. Number 1, have a clear vision. Well, first of all, you got to get in vertical time. To have that vision, you may know what that vision is for your practice in your life. The way you get in vertical time, get into meditation. God is in the space between the noise. You have to get the noise out of your body. How do you get the noise out of your body? You got to feel your body. That's what meditation is. So when you get in that quiet space, use that as a reference point, right? And then that vision will come to you if you already know it. Number 2, write down what that vision is. Put it in writing, right? When you write it down, the vision will not tarry. You'll run to it. Then what is that reason? Write down your reasons. What makes that vision so compelling? And you may have to remind yourself of that at times. Then next thing, write down your standards. Where do you feel like your standards may be high? You might want to remind yourself, but where you could raise your standards. Where do you feel frustrated in your life? Whether it's in a relationship, maybe it's in the physical aspects of your life, in the emotional aspects of your life, in the spiritual aspects of your life, and that just translates into your clinic and into your practice and into that vision. Where do you need to raise your standards? And then write down, what are those things that I need to be consistent? Maybe when you raise those standards, you don't know how to get there. So what are those vehicles? What are those vehicles that are going to help you to get to those standards, to make those standards consistent and manifest in your life? What training do I need to go to? What is there a leader? What source? And then what do my daily habits need to be? And write those rituals down, and then at least, hey, you don't have to do them all in one day, but start implementing those. If it looks overwhelming, a little bit at a time. And then master one, and then pick another one. And then eventually you condition those into you. And those become your habits. You really become your habits. That's what it is. You become your rituals. What you practice and think and how you act every day is really who you're becoming. Release the things that aren't true about you and start identifying with the things that are true about you. Who are you? Who are you really? And you may begin with, who are you not? So what rituals do you have that aren't really expressing who you truly are innately? And get clear on that. Eliminate the things that who you're not, and be clear on who you are. And then have your rituals and standards match. Put that in writing and become aware of that. That's my suggestion.
Good. Is that so? When these top 4 things you just went over, like one thing I want to point out, it's not going to happen next week. like, and maybe that's another thing, Dr. Fred. It's like we see things sometimes. We see it in an eternal
perspective.
You know what I mean? Because like, so I know that I'm not supposed to nail this tomorrow. You know, but you know what I do? I give myself the grace and the mercy to start the process and continue, because I know that each year, like, because there's so many things that happen in my office that I always tell the team, I'm like, we could have been doing, how come we weren't doing this from the beginning? Because we weren't able to see it then. So it's still like all available in front of us, but now as you get to a higher level, you start to see things you didn't see before. So it's this beautiful journey, this beautiful process of attention, but you just go. So I know when I'm 50, 60, 70, it'll just get to this higher and higher level. But I am definitely like Dr. Fred, there is that discipline where I'm always, you know, I'm cultivating, I'm trying to get an even more strong vision in what we have to do. And with that, you know, you act out. So when you start getting these thought flashes or these ideas or these doors open, it's really a beautiful journey. It really is an amazing thing, but you got to be tuned in and be able to see it and receive it and go from there and learn from mistakes. It's just as beneficial to learn what to do than learn what not to do than learn what to do. So you see, everything is really perfect. So there's no real bad situations in my office because they're just amazing learning experiences that only life could bring me. I mean, there's no education that does that. And I just love it. When you start to see things that way, then everything is really perfect in the office. Everything's great, and you're just a student, and life's taking you through it, and you're just open, you know? So I love it.
I'd like to take exactly what you said and put it in a spiritual perspective, if that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that you do really well, Chris, and you're a great leader on this, is you can be above your conditions. In other words, as a spiritual being, when we connect with our spirit, we actually have an innate consciousness that is above our conditions. The problem and the limitation happens when you're in your mind immersed in your conditions, as opposed to, okay, let me take a breath. Let me get in vertical time, meaning like I can be present in this moment now. I can raise my consciousness to look above the conditions of the world, see myself from a spiritual perspective, realize that my actions, my thoughts, my energy can really control this, not stress about it, and start putting intention into that. When you raise your state, the right strategy comes. So you raise your consciousness to be able to look at the conditions of the world as just stuff. That always changes. So when I change my consciousness and my mindset, conditions around me change. And then you just said it so great. It's the process of life. You know, that's such a key word. Life is life force. One of my incantations and affirmations in the morning is, I am life force. I am the process of life. And when I feel the process and the force of life moving through me, because we are innate intelligence, which is part of universal intelligence, we are connected to something that's way bigger. And when I'm conscious and feel life force moving through me, then I know I'm above all my conditions. Life force is also joy. So when you enjoy your life and you love and you enjoy that life force energy, you are in joy. So to enjoy is to be in joy. And when you get in a consciousness of being in joy, you are above your conditions. Now I can start, now I can connect with my standards. Now I can establish rituals that perpetuate that joy, and now you're pouring love into your life, in your practice, in your relationships, in your culture, and things start to change. They manifest. Doors, greater opportunities, greater doors begin to open, greater strategies come into your mind, visions start to gain clarity. And that's really it, man. You just got to love that life force moving through you. Connect with your spiritual reference point. Enjoy life and be in joy, and all these steps become a lot easier.
No, I love it. So for everybody out there, when you're watching, you know, and I know you enjoyed this 44 minutes of it so far, and so imagine having 2 days of that. Okay, so if you think this was good, imagine this times 2 days. So Dr. Fred, please let everybody know, contact and everything about your boot camps and seminars, and I'll be going to the one in June. I'll be speaking there as well. So take that away and make sure everyone knows the exact steps needed to take to
well,
do
certainly you can call me. Go to elitecoachingllc.com. You can call me personally with any questions. My number is 253-851-8255. 8353. We have it's a 2 boot camp series. We have boot camp 2 coming up in April in Phoenix, the 24th through the 26th. We have a series coming up in July, August. You can go to Elite Coaching LLC and see those dates. There's so many spiritual perspectives that we teach, because I do believe that we are a spirit in a physical body, that chiropractic is a spiritual calling, and to connect with that reference point is really to connect with your power. I'm so excited for our June seminar. So excited to have Dr. Chris speak there. The whole theme is really connecting with your soul purpose, manifesting your soul purpose into your practice and into your life. Dr. Chris is going to speak on that. It's a world-class seminar. We have Garrett Gunderson, Dan Pompa, John Davila is going to talk. I'm going to speak. Roberto Monaco and Dr. Chris. And we're going to have CA training with Melody Cavino. It's really going to be a world-class seminar. You all really need to go, man. I guarantee any event that you come to is guaranteed to be a transformation. Not inspiration, but transformation. So if that's something you want information on, give me a call. Look on our website. And I'm excited just to be in person with you again, Dr. Chris. It's been
great, man.
Since we've been together, so.
Well, you're married now and stuff, and
yeah, you know, life, process of life.
It's wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to turn over to Dr. Tabor. Dr. Tabor, take it away. Appreciate you. Bye, Dr. Fred.
Awesome.
All right, peace, man. Take care. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Phenomenal job, guys. You guys always rock the house. And so let me end with saying thank you for everybody who's watching tonight. Thank you for being on. And don't forget that is elitecoachingllc.com. Go there, check it out, and see what all the events are. We'll also have that information for you in the email that goes out. All right? Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Peace. Thank you.